Hey, Manpreet, is it you? It is me. I joined with the yours. Oh, it's Anna.
Hi, I joined also with the yours, but I can change my name.
But you know, I know Manpreet is going to say that only one person should be in the
The
Zoom
yours
account.
account. Okay,
So
so you will start the poll and you need to like do the recording and share the screen, right?
yes, and what happened last time is that the poll results didn't got recorded. I don't know why. We were thinking it was because many of us were on
Yeah,
the
makes sense. Okay, so I'm gonna log out and log in using my account.
perfect.
Okay,
Thank you.
see you in a minute. Bye bye.
Okay. Hey, Manpreet. You're muted.
Hello, sorry. Have you started recording already?
No. Oh,
That learning and those needs to be met. It's important for those needs to be met. So I'm really excited that you will get some pro tips that will help you not only for the proposals of the local actions, but hopefully you're going to pick up some really interesting nuggets and information for you for other proposals you may be writing as well. So it's all about responding to your needs. We're going to start a fresh needs assessment next year. And we'll be responding to your needs in 2023 as well. As you know, everything that we do is rooted in the Global Youth Statement for Road Safety. Hopefully everybody's familiar with what the Global Youth Statement for Road Safety is now. It should be your go-to document in everything that you do, in terms of what we call on for decision makers, the reality that we face, and the action and commitment that we commit to as young leaders as well. And of course, learning from each other, learning from experts, people who have walked the walk, not just talk the talk that a lot of politicians tend to do. As young people, we're always here to show that actually we are here to be the change as well as see the change and deliver the change as well. So we're going to be learning from youth experts, people who have run local actions, for example, in the past. You're going to be hearing all about that in this session. And always, of course, having a little bit of fun while we learn as well. That's an important part of everything that we do, is have a bit of fun while we learn and get to know each other in the work that we do. After all, we are a youth organization, and we want to keep that youthful energy and harness that youthful energy in the work that we do. All right, so as always, if this is your first CapDev session with us, you may not be familiar with this, but if it's your 13th, hopefully somebody's been through every single one by now. I want you to scan either the QR code or go to menti.com and type in the code that you see on the screen, 43928532. And it's there on the code. So I tend to just scan it because it's the world of QR codes that we live in nowadays. So yeah, and then you should get to the page where we're going to start asking some questions and getting to know a little bit about where our audience is from, where you're connecting from, and some expectations that you may have for this session. All right, so Mentimeter. All right, here we are. Menti. Where is Menti? Here it is. All right. So you should be seeing my Menti screen. Can you guys see the screen with the how to connect at the top? Yeah? Or no?
No, we
Not
can't
yet.
see your presentation.
Okay. Let me make sure that's switching then. 1 second. How about now?
Yes.
All right, perfect.
Yeah, we can see it.
You can see, yeah? Good. All right, so first question that we want to ask you is, as always, where are you tuning in from? So you should switch, if you're connecting on a phone or on a browser, you should switch to this first question. So Exactly. Fill it in. Welcome to everybody from Brussels, from Rwanda, from Nairobi, from Florida, from Uruguay, Croatia. Sorry, Croatia, about the match last night. That's all I can say. Anyone from Argentina? You're probably happy. Philippines is here. Jordan is here. Welcome, Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire. Hello. Uruguay, USA, you said, Mexico. You know, it always blows my mind just to see how many people are tuning in from so many different places. It's a real privilege to have you guys here. And it's always beautiful to have such a great diversity of people. I'm going to wait for a couple of people to join in because we have 60 odd people in the Zoom, and I want more people to join because this is an interactive session. So I want as many people as possible to jump in on the Menti and participate. Four, 3, 9, 2, 8, 5, 3, 2. All right, let's see. Lebanon has joined. Fantastic. Moldova, Egypt, Benin is here. Mombasa in Kenya. Welcome, Mombasa. Indonesia is here as well. I think I see a Kenya. What's that? Does anybody know what that flag is? I think it's. Is it? What's that? Is that? South? No, it's not South Africa. Similar colors. Who's
This
posted
is
the flag?
Jordan.
It's what?
Jordan.
Oh, is that your flag?
My flag.
Uganda.
Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. Welcome to everybody. All right, let's move to the next question. And the next question is, what feeling do you get when you need to write a proposal? So you may be a leader of an NGO or an organization. You may be somebody who is responsible for writing proposals in your organization. I don't know. You may be somebody who's involved in the team. I just want to know how you guys feel, because it does evoke different emotions when you think, all right, here's a call for proposals, for example, the local actions, and this is what we want people to do to apply, right? So generally, I'm seeing that the majority of people are excited, which is really good. That means maybe you have some experience. Maybe you've, maybe this is not your first rodeo, as people say. Some people are scared. 30%, nearly a third of people feel scared, thinking, oh no, it's like taking an exam. And the other people swing around on the chair and they want to procrastinate. They're like, I don't want to start this yet. But it's good to see most people get excited. Most people, but there is a mixture of people who feel a certain way about this. And writing a proposal can evoke feelings of being scared, of being frightened, of not knowing where to start. So hopefully this session will help you. And for those people who are excited, hopefully it's going to make you even more excited. And if you want to procrastinate, hopefully it's giving you a place to write where you can start and actually get your teeth stuck in and start doing it. So I guess this directly correlates to the previous question. How many of you written a proposal before? All right. So I suppose if it's not applicable, either you're not in the proposal writing team, or you're not responsible for that particular part of work that you're doing, or whatever other reason. Maybe it's not part of your remit. But vast majority you have, more than almost 2/3 of people have written a proposal before. I wonder how many of those have been successful, is another question. And then over a third of you have not written a proposal before. So hopefully this is going to encourage you to write a proposal, especially for our call for action, local actions. So next, I want you to start thinking about, what do you think are the key attributes that make a proposal, either a strong proposal, powerful proposal, or what do you think will result in a successful proposal? So name 1 or 2 things that you think would create a successful proposal. All right, so creativity, including all the elements that the proposal asks for. That's good. Meeting the criteria, that's always important, isn't it? meeting project, I think you meant meaningful project, meeting the call for concepts, what their people are asking for, evidence-based, innovative, a good project title. That's interesting. Creatives come up now a couple of times. Smart objectives, consistency. So is that maybe showing consistency in the work that you do? Maybe we can explore that. Evidence-based has come up a couple of times as well. Having your research, knowing what you're focusing your work on, and also keeping to the goal and the red line through the application and being specific. So keeping to the goal and their red line, maybe that's what it means. Like obviously knowing where the boundaries is what I interpret that as. Addressing needs, having objectives, having keywords, having statistics, being realistic, sustainable, meaningful, fantastic. Catchable titles again. We have title come up and understand the problem, what needs to be solved. Interesting. All right, fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. And almost finished, but do you feel you have yourself as a young leader an innovative solution to a problem in your own community? And I guess to contribute to that, is it something that you would like to solve, for example? Now, it doesn't have to be something that's at this moment in time, you realistically could do it. I just want to know if there is a solution in your community that possibly you could solve. This could be related to road safety. It could be related to anything, you know. So most people in this room who are participating in this poll here, almost 75% of people do have innovative solutions. This is really cool because young people usually do have the most interesting, creative, innovative solutions to modern problems that we face in our community. We see that all around the world, people innovating, people coming up with new ways of tackling old problems and coming up with new solutions. So that's amazing. 75% of people who are polling now think that you have an innovative solution. Amazing. 25% are not sure, but nobody said no. So everybody's got something in them that they could pull out, right? That is really great because we have the perfect opportunity for you today, that we're going to be launching this call for action for our local actions, a call for proposals. So final question is, are you interested in submitting a proposal for the 2023? Great. And I suppose what it comes down to is that's the reason you're here today as well, isn't it? Is to understand more, is to see what this kind of call for proposals is all about. And of course, learn how to do it in a successful and interesting and innovative way. So most people are saying yes. Borat is nodding at me saying, yes, I would like to take part in a proposal. I would like to submit something for 2023. And then the rest of you are not quite sure yet. All right, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking part in our quiz, in our poll, understanding what you're interested in, understanding what your where you're from, and so forth. And I hope we can meet some of your expectations in today's session. So let me then move on to today's learning objectives. By the end of today's session, this is what we're going to be able to do. You as young leaders in this session, by the end of the session, you'll be able to explain the attributes that make an effective proposal. Some of those things that you've come up are some of the things that we're going to be focusing on. So it's great that we're already aligned there. We're going to identify some top tips. So what are some of the top tips that you should never forget in preparing your proposals to ensure that you create these amazing proposals moving forward? And then identifying successful experiences. I told you earlier about learning from peers. So we're going to be hearing from winners of local actions, people who've done it, walked the walk, and got the T-shirt and can share that knowledge with you, and understand the how and when to launch when we launch these local actions. All right, how can you apply? When can you apply? What are we looking for? What do you get? Everyone wants the money, right? So how do you get that money? How can you start taking action? So here's a quick overview of what we're going to be focusing on. Myself and my colleague Danny from Colombia is going to be helping to run some of the content, and we're going to be hearing from the head of our Global Youth Coalition, the lady who runs it, along with the team, Sana Casaune. She's going to be launching today's session. So the vision in terms of what road safety proposals should reflect. We want to focus specifically within evidence-based. I'm glad to have seen that come up. What is a safe system approach? A little bit of a quick recap in what kind of things we're looking for in proposals from the safe system kind of lens. What is a policy gap? So you maybe want to address a policy gap in your community. Some examples to ensure that your proposal has strong advocacy elements, and we'll be talking about that. We've been doing quite a lot of sessions on advocacy already. We're going to just be reiterating some of those points of what advocacy is and what kind of components we're looking for in our local actions. Some of our pro tips, which I believe a lot of you are here for, to find out those pro tips for strong proposals. We're going to be hearing from local winners in our testimonials, from local winners from Hasselt and from Minu in Argentina. And then we're going to be launching our call for proposals for Local Action 2023 and what that means. So that's all from me for now. I'm going to hand over to Danny, who is going to talk to you now about the first element of today's agenda, which is setting the vision for road safety and framing it within the safe system approach. So over to you, Danny.
Thank you, Manpreet, and hi, everyone. We are very happy to have so many attendees today. I'm going to share my screen now so we can continue with the presentation. There you have it, and full screen. All right. So can you see my full screen now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Wonderful, thank you. So this is the first topic we want to cover, and it is having like a reminder on what the safe system approach is. And this is important for us because we understand that the proposals that are rooted with a clear understanding on a safe system approach can be very successful and can really attack maybe the problems of road safety in a holistic way. So what is the safe system approach? It really goes to move away from the traditional approach. And the traditional approach places the responsibility of preventing road crashes on road users. So from the traditional approach, we would say that, for example, 90% of the road crashes were due to road users. So it blames road users in the majority or most of the cases. But what we are trying to propose here is that if you work under the safe system approach lens, you shouldn't think that, and you would know that maybe that 90% of road crashes were not due to road users, and that is maybe a number that is not only unfair but inaccurate, right? And then we need to keep in mind that the safe system approach proposes that road safety is a broader systemic issue at play. So again, we cannot only blame road users, understanding that road safety not only depends on human behavior, but also depends on other elements that we are going to see in the next slides. So the safe system approach also proposes that humans make mistakes, and it recognizes that since we make mistakes, those mistakes cannot be or cannot lead to someone's losing their lives or getting seriously injured. So it recognizes that, and it attempts to having a system that is safe, and it is ensuring the vulnerable users' safety. And then it also recognizes that our bodies are vulnerable, that our bodies are not designed to survive a crash at high speeds, for example. And this is something that maybe many of you have seen through the Graham's explanation, this dummy, which has like the features and the characteristics of a body that would survive a high-speed crash, which is very different to our body right now. And then it also stresses that the system should be designed to protect all road users. So keeping in mind that there are not only drivers or people inside a car, but there are people walking, there are people cycling, there are people on motorcycles, and the system needs to ensure safety for all of them. So now we can see some of the differences between the safe system approach and the traditional approach. And we can see them through these questions, these 5 questions. So for example, for the safe system approach, the problem is that there are fatalities and serious injuries. So the safe system approach really focuses on solving or preventing fatalities and serious injuries, as opposed to the traditional approach that focuses on preventing all crashes, no matter if they are like simple crashes. The traditional approach seeks to address all the crashes, which is different to the safe system approach. Then both approaches analyze there is like a different cost of the unsafe roads. So for the safe system approach, the problem is that there are system failures. So many of the elements that compound the system are failing, and it is not only one, which is what the traditional approach proposes, that it is only the road user behavior, that it is only the road user performance or the impaired driving that is causing all the unsafety in the mobility system. So this is different because, again, we are trying to see this problem through a holistic lens. Regarding the responsibility on the road safe or on the road crashes, the safe system approach also considers that the system designers or the people who designs the streets are also responsible for the road crashes. And in the traditional approach, they only blame people. They only say it is people who's driving in the wrong way or who's not maybe complying to the regulation or the law, who's causing the road crashes. And then in the safe system approach, what we try or what people demand is safety in the system, as opposed to the traditional approach, where maybe they try to seek maybe more efficiency, high speeds, trying to move people faster, but not maybe focusing much on its safety. The final difference is regarding to the goal. Where do they want to get through each approach? So for example, through the safe system approach, the goal is 0 fatalities and serious injuries. But in the traditional approach, they would maybe say there's an acceptable number of deaths and severe injuries, which is called the optimal number. So they accept there are maybe some people dying due to unsafe roads, which is something that, of course, we want to avoid. So the key message here is that local actions or other road safety related projects should focus on things much more than education. And this is where also the global plan for the decade of action for road safety is very helpful, because as you know, the plan established 5 areas of action that we have to keep in mind in order to ensure that we are improving on the road safety, So we have multimodal transport and land use planning. We have also safe road infrastructure, making sure that roads are safely designed. Also ensuring that there are safe vehicles driving on the roads that have or accomplish all the regulations on vehicle safety. It also, of course, includes safe road users and post-crash response. Those are the 5 key areas that the global plan established. But then what we have seen in many maybe calls from proposals before and other experiences is that most of the people focus only on safe road use. And then here's the message again, that we need to step to a safe system approach that has a more integrated view. Now, this is like a short commercial for our JERS Academy. And basically, in the second module of the Academy, which is called the Safe System approach and the risk factors, we explain this in much more detail and in a very interactive way. So if you want to know more, if you want to know more about the safe system, if you want to know more about the key risk factors that put young people at risk, and if you want to understand what are the maybe options or strategies to address this, you can always go to joursacademy.org and take the modules of our academy, which are absolutely great. And now, just to summarize this bit, when you have or when you see maybe the problem through the lens of the safe system, you can identify what's missing in your community. And then after that, after you have identified that, you also have to think, what do you have influence over? Or what you have skills to fight for? Maybe there are topics that are, I don't know, like national level that require maybe really big efforts. And maybe that's not something that we can take in the project, but maybe in your community, in your neighborhood, in your city district, or in your city, there's something much more achievable and something you can influence. Then you can identify that as a possibility for your project, and then you will have your project idea much more clear. And then we have this other bit, which is about the policy gaps. And why are we talking about this? Again, because our interest is that, well, most of the projects or all of them have this incidence or advocacy component. And to have it, it is very important to understand what is a policy gap, what is this thing that is missing, or this thing that hasn't been implemented in a regulation and that maybe we can push for. So a policy gap can be basically three things. The first one is the non-existence of policies that address key issues in road safety. So maybe there are, for example, there are no laws that address certain risk factors, or there are missing regulations on global safety standards, for example, vehicle standards or road design standards, or maybe there isn't like an institutionalized participation of youth in policy making. So that's something maybe that we can push for as a new regulation. In other cases, there might be existing policies that address these topics, but there's no implementation. So you can also check that. Maybe are the decision makers really implementing and going through this policy? So this is another possibility where we can identify there's a policy gap. And then the third possibility is that there's the policy, maybe there's some implementation, but there are not enough resources to be implemented. So that's another possibility for us to say, here's a possibility of a policy gap that we can address or work on through our project. It is important also to remember that a policy is much more than a law. We could make a whole session on what is a policy and how to design it and so on. But the thing here is, even though a law is not a policy is much wider than that. An advocacy effort can be pushing for passing a law or an amendment of a law. So it is also a good possibility, again, to work reviewing what laws exist and how are they being implemented. So you have to, how can you identify a policy gap? So you can think on the gap between the problems or the things that you have observed in your community, which is the problem, and how the policy can address this. So this is the way that you can, again, identify there's a policy gap. And there are also, or you can also think, for example, that you can solve a problem through the safe system, and that you can maybe solve a policy gap through the safe system elements and through the risk factor elements too. So, for example, if we think about the the risk factor, which are speeding, drunk driving, helmet use, and use of seatbelts or child restraints, there might be a lot of possibilities to see if there's any policy gap and any possibilities to solve it. So for example, on speeding, we can see if there's any limit, speed limit regulation, if there's any speeding enforcement currently being done in our city or community, how the infrastructure is designed to, and how it really makes sure that people does not exceed the speed limit. And so it also relates to the safe infrastructure, which is already an area of the safe system. These are like elements that are correlated, right? And then also, for example, we can see if there's any regulation or maximum alcohol level in drunk driving. If this is an issue in our community, we can see if there's any regulation on that, if there's any punishment to drunk drivers, or if there's any, for example, regulations on alcoholics and how vehicles maybe can be safer through certain technologies to avoid that people under the influence of alcohol are driving cars. So it is linked also to safer vehicles, for example. Then you have the other risk factor, which is the helmet use, where you can maybe see if there's any regulation on the mandatory use of helmets for motorcycles, for motorcyclists, for example, or what are the helmet standards in your country, or if there are any. Maybe there's not any regulation on the standards or on the helmet, so that's a possibility to work on this risk factor too. And then also, for example, the use of seat belts or child restraints, seeing if there's any enforcement on that topic. And also through the safe system element, it's the same thing. We have a lot of possibilities to work. For example, if we are interested in safe infrastructure, we can see if there are any traffic calming implementations, school zones interventions, or improvements in the infrastructure for cyclists or pedestrians. That could be something we could work on through a project focusing on safe infrastructure. Safe vehicles, for example, if there are any regulations that make mandatory certain vehicle standards, the post-crash response, understanding if there is any, for example, improvement on the response time, or if the rights of the victims are ensured. That's also something we can work on. And then also on transport and land use, so how the cities are distributed, how the public space is being distributed, so all the road users have the space to move safely, right? So this is a very, those are like general ideas where you can identify there's a policy gap and you can solve a problem to the safe system approach. And then it is always important that to prove that this gap exists. And many of you said the evidence bit, right? That we need to prove that this problem is a real one, and it is not only something that maybe we saw one day, but it's not really a wider problem. So to ensure this and to prove this, we can always use quantitative and qualitative data. So quantitative is all the official statistics, crash data, global data from the WHO. Those, like, let's say, hard data are very useful for us to understand if it is an effective or an existing problem, what we want to address. And also the qualitative bit, which is more related to the observation, to case studies, to local perceptions from people at a certain areas, perceptions of road users, maybe doing focus groups, checking media reports, maybe having some interviews with people who's working on a certain topic. It can also be very helpful for us to prove that the problem we want to work on through the project is a real one. All right? So always show the evidence to back up your ideas. That's the message here. And now I've been talking for a while, and since we like doing this interactive, it's time for breakout rooms. So we will have 7 minutes for breakout rooms, and we will do basically 2 things. The first one is, of course, introducing yourself, the organizations you work for, and also explaining how are you connected currently to the road safety field or the sustainable mobility field. And then the discussion would be around this question that you can see here on the screen. The question is, what one policy gap related to road safety exists in your city or country that you could address through a local actions project? So maybe discuss this based on what we have just explained, maybe some ideas of project that you had in mind before, and yeah, have a short conversation of 7 minutes with your partners, and then we will be back here for the pro tips. So I think we already have the breakout rooms confirmed, and the only thing you have to do is join the breakout room. We will be back here in 7 minutes, all right?
I think people are leaving one by one, but you should see, yeah, people are leaving. So you should see pop up and then accept and see you in a bit. All right, we still have people in the room, but I suppose we're just going to close up the breakout rooms in in about a minute or so anyway. No worries.
Okay, ma'am. I have returned from the 9th room.
Perfect. It's perfect. Thank you.
All right, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining. All right, I don't think everybody was able to go to a room or didn't attend a room, but that's okay, no problem. I hope that the people who did go to a room were able to have some fruitful discussions and have a little bit of an initial idea of what your local action project could potentially look like, or at least understand the difference between a idea of what might be a problem within your community and actually backing it up with some sort of evidence or policy gap that might exist in the work that you're doing. So anyway, welcome back, guys. Thank you so much for taking the time out. I hope you got a chance to speak to each other briefly. And in the interest of time, we're gonna move on. So when we talk about these local actions, and when we're talking about proposals, we're thinking in terms of a strong advocacy element, and that is something that we're looking for in these particular call for proposals for the local actions. And when we talk about advocacy, what we're talking about is the things that we've spoken about previously in terms of what advocacy is and what advocacy isn't. So if you can build in to your advocacy concepts something that will create political will empower or communicate with the community, or will support and create mobilization around a project or a topic, that is an element that we want you to build in to the work that you're doing. And in most cases, lots of proposals like to see that it's going to be leading to something concrete, right? So especially in the world that we work in the NGO and the advocacy and the kind of the change world that we want to see in road safety, it's always important to bring things back to these key elements of road safety for political will, for communication, empowerment, and social support. So what do these three different things mean? Building political will is also about getting commitment from, for example, an elected representative or a company or a pressure group or international or local kind of organizations that can help make your project a reality. So it's all about placing road safety higher on the political agenda as a public health concern, as an economic concern, as a social issue, especially that's facing young people. When we talk about empowerment, it's about informing the community, creating awareness among general public around a specific population or a group around road safety or road safety topic. It's basically giving people the skills so they can be empowered to take action themselves. So that could be stressing the importance of road safety for the wider personal social value. For example, it could be equipping people with knowledge on how to use the roads. It could be the value and skills that people need for safer road use, which is, of course, only one part of the safe system approach, or building leadership within the community so as we can reduce road traffic crashes within a community through communication and empowerment. And social support is also about bringing allies together. What Danny spoke about earlier on is what is the things that you have influence over? What are the things that you have skills in? And if you don't necessarily have the skills or the influence over a certain area, then you can build a coalition, you can build an alliance, you can build an opportunity to work with other people to create these interventions, to work on the delivery of different things, a delivery of resources, pooling resources together, strengthening your community, your participation from people. And as we push for meaningful youth participation, it's so important then as well to get participation from the wider community in your projects as well. So not just think of it in terms of what can I do and what can I achieve, but it's about creating this social support. So when you're thinking about converting some of these advocacy elements into activities, what does that look like? So in terms of political will, it's about placing road safety higher on the political agenda. So it could be an activity that you might include in your proposals is, we want to meet with or get a meeting with a decision maker on this topic, for example, whatever the topic it is you might be focusing on. Or it might be attending a strategic event to approach decision makers to tell them about the work that we're doing to secure an international commitment or a national commitment or a local commitment, to get support, to get funding, to get resources to reduce the amount of road crashes on the in your community, or whatever your focus is, your vision is for your community. Empowerment and communication. Some activities might look like working with the media, for example, going into interview spaces, going into radio, going into TV, using innovative tools like new media. You know, you got things like Twitter Spaces, you got things like Instagram. So what are all these different kind of activities that would fall under these specific areas that you could do? Social media campaigns. You know, how do you translate your idea or your vision into specific advocacy activities? And when we're thinking about social support and mobilizing the community, bringing the community together, is how can you show that there is wider support for what you're doing? So that could be through petitions, for example, written online. There's so many ways that you can gather people's feelings and signing up to certain causes that you might be talking about through a petition, for example, or building a coalition. That's what our last CapDev session was about. It was all about what's the benefits of working with other people. How do we amplify our message as young leaders by working with other strategic partners as well and different organizations? So to wrap that up on our focus of advocacy, it's so important that you have that focus within the work you're doing, understanding the policy gap that Danny spoke about earlier on, looking for the evidence, ensuring that what you're looking for, the policy gap that you've seen is backed up by qualitative, quantitative data, thinking about strategic advocacy activities that you could do, different strategies through those lenses of political will, empowerment, communication, and mobilization, building alliances. And finally, identifying a tangible outcome. It's so important that your project has something that at the end of it, it's not just fun and games and we've had a great time and we've built our skills. That's a really important part of the work. But we want to see something, or at least scope something that is going to lead to something tangible, right? Is it going to lead to an infrastructure change? Is it going to lead to a new policy? Is it going to lead to training? Is it going to lead to people having new skills? Is it going to lead to more money for your cause? Is it going to lead to, you know, more young people involved in this topic and fighting in a longer term for this particular cause that we're focusing on? So that's where we're saying in terms of advocacy, that's so important for us to see in these applications, and we really hope that this will help you in doing so. So now let's go over to our pro tips. So these are just some kind of tidbits, some information that we think will really help you in making your project proposal successful, and especially for these local actions, call for proposals that we're launching shortly. So one thing that is super important is understand who you are. And this applies not just to local actions, but any proposals you're going for. Where's the money coming from? And how does that align with your values? For example, are you willing, or are you ready, or are you comfortable taking money from certain places? For example, would you apply for a field for, let's say, somebody who's giving money out from the alcohol industry, or the armaments industry, or the tobacco industry, or companies with a bad reputation? Generally, in the road safety field, we say no. It's firstly really important to understand your values, what you stand for, and determine what you need the money for what you're doing, right? So that's really important. Understanding who you are, what your values are, what it is you're trying to achieve, and where you are comfortable or not comfortable applying for funds from, all right? Some organizations do have a bit of a sketchy route of giving money out to tick certain boxes. So ensure you know that, ensure you've done your research and your due diligence on the people that you're applying for money from. Obviously, yours is a fantastic opportunity and a fantastic organization to apply from. But again, always ask questions and do your research, all right? Number two, understand the context. Going back to what Danny was saying about the research and the evidence and the things that is going to illustrate your topic or your problem in actual terms, in numerical terms, in research terms, in evidence terms. So are you aware of what the common trends are within your organization or within the work that you're trying to do? Are you aware of what opportunities exist within the work that you're trying to achieve, within your city, within your neighborhood? Who else is doing something similar? What are your means for verification? Is it a perception that I think that people are driving so too fast down my street, for example, if we look at the risk factors? Or is it based on data? Are you actually doing crash risk data? Are you actually looking at the resources that are out there? And this is important because if we talk about the local actions, it all starts with, before a funding opportunity even appears, to be a successful proposal writer, you have to put your grant in perspective of what the needs of the community at the time that you're submitting your proposal as for. So it's all really important to understand the context of the evidence, with evidence for the problem that you're trying to solve and proving that it is a problem. Number 3, pro tip is, again, look for your evidence to back up your goals and objectives. We looked at qualitative data. We looked at quantitative data. We looked at what are the reliable sources. So some things might not be reliable. You know, your neighbor who said, this is such a big problem out here, maybe he's an expert or maybe he's not, but that's not necessarily the types of qualification of data that we're looking for to back up your goals. So we're looking at things like official statistics, police records, crash data, official statistics like from hospitals. And most of these things are available online, mobility related data, modal shares, you know, city plans. Speak to experts in your community. And then, of course, triangulate that where you can with things like testimonials, media articles, interviews with community leaders, declarations that illustrate that this actually is a problem that we want to tackle, and this is the evidence for it, right? That gives you the strong basis to say, look, this is a problem and this is what we're going to do about it. All right. Then once you've understood your problem, it's all about setting your goal or your intention. So think about, where is it that you want to go? You know, it's an overall goal. So it's like a vision. It's like an idea of where you want to take this this project forward. Broader long-term intention, not necessarily have a time period, but it's something that goes back to your who you are as people and what it is you want to achieve, the problem that you want to solve, and how you articulate that in a way that is mission driven, you know, not just driven by a desire to have the money. So here's an example. An example of a really good goal might be to save young people's lives on the roads and help reach a global goals targets by giving youth skills to take action for road safety in Manila by September 2025. And you can read the other one as well in terms of something specific and something broad as well. But then we go from the broader picture to the more specific ideas of SMART objectives. I think everybody's probably heard of SMART objectives in the past, but I'll reiterate it again for you now. We looked at this in our project proposal session as well. Being SMART, specific is specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. So in order to establish clear objectives, when you set your objectives, you should show them to people and say, do you think this is specific enough? Is this interesting enough to help reach our target? What is that goal that we're looking for? And how do we then create something that is specific with the objectives in mind, creating something that is very specific to a certain area? You can measure it. You can make sure that it's something that by the end of it, you can see, did we achieve that or not? Is it realistic? Are we trying to change something as one person or 3 or 4 people on a country level? Is that possible? So is it attainable? Is it realistic? And do you have a start and end date? That's so important in a project proposal, to show that you have a start plan and you have an exit strategy as well, because projects don't run forever and ever and ever. All right. So here again are some examples. By October 2023, so very specific, a virtual petition. We want to launch 1 virtual petition to show, so 1. So by the end of it, measurable, did we achieve it or not? Well, did we launch a petition? Yes or no? And then through that petition, were we able to get support from 25 members of the City Council in Bogota for bicycle board members? This is a made-up thing, but it's very specific. Some of these actually go back to the local actions that were set up over the last couple of years. Well, here's another one. By June 2023, engage with 5 decision makers on meaningful youth participation through intergenerational steering group committee meetings with youth leaders aged 18 to 29 in Kampala. So again, very, very specific. And by time bound, it's finishing in June 2023. We want to speak to 5 decision makers. And we want to set up this steering group meeting. So there's your SMART objectives in action. Next tip is, can you link what you're doing in your local level to the international level and to the international guidance and strategic ideas and briefings that have come out? So for example, always really good to take a look at international guidance, because this usually comes from global experts who've understood the field from around the world, from different countries, and they're given the best tips. So how can you align yourself to some of these things? For example, the Decade of Action Plan. How can you relate that to a local plan? How can you link this to promotion of sustainable mobility at the Sustainable Development Goals level? And how are you linking this, for example, to make your work stronger by linking it to the global goals, or by answering some of those burning international issues on a local level? I'm going to give you some ideas of where you can get some of these resources in a minute. Number 7, define the objectives that will make your, define the activities that will make your objectives come true. So once you've defined your objectives, how do we translate that into activities? That's also something that we want to see in the plan. And then the last thing to do is to cost things up. Obviously, how much a thing is going to cost. So that should include things like, you know, people being paid, your day rates, your logistical costs, travel, accommodation, equipment, per diems, food, volunteers, bank fees, meeting spaces, communication expenses, copies, all these different things. It should be there in your budget, right? And also think about administrative costs as well. You know, who's going to do these things? Who's going to keep count of the budget for you, etc. It's not a huge budget, 5,000 euros, especially for local actions, but it needs a level of coordination and oversight to ensure that you're doing what you're doing, and you're not overspending, and you can achieve what you want to achieve with that money. And of course, is it value for money? So are you getting quotes for certain things? Are you shown due diligence in getting a range of different quotes from different places? Are you getting not necessarily always the cheapest, but are you getting quality for what you put your money in? How can you illustrate that in the work you're doing? So it shows that you've thought through your expenses. You know what kind of expenses might come up, and of course we'll support you with that as well. If you get selected, these kinds of things are things that we can dive into more detail when we move forward. So those are some of our pro tips, 8 tips there. So just to summarize that, we're looking at defining your values, defining your mission and your vision, understanding that you need to back that up with qualitative and quantitative data to illustrate your points, illustrate that it's a problem, set your goals, set your objectives, and understand what activities will help you reach your objectives and your vision and your goals. Think about an all-encompassing budget from start to finish. And if the money that you might get from local actions doesn't cover it, who might give you help in support or in kind for the work that you want to achieve? Think about those partnerships and mobilization of communities and partners. And then finally, consider the sustainability of the project. How are you linking this to the SDGs? How will this continue after the money's finished in the funding stream that you have from local actions or any other proposal you may be applying for? So how may this be a sustainable thing and longevity down the line? So if we look at relevant resources that you could use to identify issues, problems, connecting it with SDGs, helping to back up some of your evidence as well for, you know, what's out there or what are policies out there that should be in place that don't exist. For example, you've got, I'm just going to, this is a bit of a self plug from the coalition, but this is stuff that we've written, which is the policy briefs on the different SDGs, on education, on climate change, and of course on gender equality and safe mobility. So if you haven't read these, they're an amazing, they've been written by members of the coalition, people who have lived experiences of these different topics. And this is just 3 of 17 different goals that you could focus on within the work that you're doing. Also, we have some other resources, which for some reason are not. Oh, here we go. We have Policymakers Toolkit. So if you want to do a project on meaningful youth participation, for example, what are the benefits of meaningful youth participation? How do you go about doing it? And how do we go about including those people, those ideas in the project that you might do? Perfect resource to go to basically start coming up with ideas of how you could create a meaningful youth participation project, for example, in your city or your local area. Then you've got, as we mentioned, the global plan. This is really useful because this sets out the global plan of what communities and countries should be doing at the local level with international standards, international statistics, international regulations of works on a local level, framed through the safe system approach, right? So looking at, for example, if there's a speeding issue on your road, what Danny was talking about earlier, how do you solve that through the safe system approach? You know, and that's what this global plan is really, really useful at doing, and showing which partners you need to make that happen. So that's something really useful you could use for your proposals. And then finally, a new one should be coming out sometime next year, I believe. But the Global Status Report on Road Safety 2018 actually is a fantastic place to get your official statistics for your country. So does your country have a seatbelt law? Does your country have a helmet law? Does your country have a speed limit? Is there BAC levels in your country? So this is really zooming in on a country level and understanding, okay, this is something that needs to be addressed. These are the statistics that are killing people in our area, and this is what we can do about it. And then finally, of course, we're looking at the understanding of what we talked about right at the very start, which is going back to the Global Youth Statement for Road Safety, is how are you going to frame what you do into the Global Youth Statement for Road Safety and some of the things that we call for. So Sandra's going to give you some more information in a bit on some of the things that we're looking for in particular. But before we do that, I'm going to pass over to Danny, who's going to introduce some of our guest speakers. And these are, again, like we said earlier, people who have done this, walk the talk, and got results as well. They're going to give you some of their top tips. So Danny, I'm going to hand back over to you.
Thank you, Manpreet. Yes, in fact, we will have 3 guest speakers, Brian and Christine from Safer Roads Now, that's the name of their project, and then Ezequiel from No Te Distraigas, or Don't Get Distracted. So I'm going to introduce first Brian and Christine, so they do their presentation first, and then we will go with Ezequiel. So Brian Semwanga, he's a certified automotive engineer with experience in training in transport and logistics management. He's currently doing his master in transportation at Hasselt University. He's, of course, a member of the Youth Coalition, and he's also been working in some projects with the ministry and the Uganda Road Accident Reduction Network. And with him is also Christine, who's working also on this Safer Roads Now project. She's from Kenya. She's a civil engineer with over 3 years of experience, and she's also doing her master's at Hasselt University, where this project actually is taking place. Looking for safer infrastructure for pedestrians and cyclists that attend this university. So over to you, Christine and Brian. I'm aware you're here. So now you can maybe turn your microphone. Oh, I see Brian now. Wonderful.
Thank you, Daniela. Thank you, everyone. Christine, I think you should share your screen and start, then we can see.
Okay. Let us know if you can share the screen. If not, I can help you with that. I'm still seeing Manpreet's screen, I think. Oh, no.
What about now?
Yes, perfect.
Perfect, yeah.
Okay. So can we start, Daniela?
Please, go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. As you've heard, my name is Christine from Kenya, but our project is based in Belgium because that is where Hasselt University is in. I will start with about the Safer Roads Now project briefly, and then Brian will continue on how to write a good proposal. So as you all know, the Safer Roads Sciences Network by the University of Hasselt, and it's funded by both the Coalition and the Total Energies Foundation. Previously, we had the Moving Safe to Hasselt by Linda. I think you all know her, or some, which is still an ongoing online road safety education and awareness campaign at Hasselt University, mostly for international students who come from outside the European Union. So looking at the data that is being done towards the road crashes, but we still see that the pedestrian crashes still. Also for cyclists, we have also seen an in European countries and still in Belgium. So there was a study of the cycling infrastructure that showed that they perceived cycling paths along in Hasselt and safe, particularly in areas where we have mixed traffic. So the project was for safety of students who cycle and walk to school within those areas. So how have we gone about it? We have big infrastructure in relation to soft.
I think we might be facing some technical issues from Christine, right, Brian?
Yeah. I think so.
It's your internet's dipping in and out, Christine. So you might be back. If it happens again, maybe you want to jump in, Brian, and take over.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Cool.
Christine. Okay. All right. What Christine was saying is that the project has 3 objectives, and the first objective is to develop an understanding of the level of road safety of Hasselt and Diepenbeek infrastructure in relation to soft mobility. All right, it's okay. I had to do the proposal writing process, but I first wanted to finish your part. But it's okay, you just shifted to the next part, but it's okay. Okay, I'll take you through the proposal writing process.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I'll take you through the proposal writing process that we as the TSN went through when we're writing our own proposal. Basically, the proposal writing process has 3 parts, and the first part is the youth consultation. So what you have to do basically in the youth consultation is to collect ideas about the road safety problems that are available or that are present in your community from fellow young people, from your peers, from your friends. So you have to do this consultation. You can do it online, you can do a physical meeting. For us, we chose to do an online meeting because it was easier for everyone, and we got a number of people, a number of young people who joined in. So after doing this youth consultation, we'll come up with a number of problems from different people, from different young people. But from these problems that you've come up with, you have to choose and agree on the most pressing issue in your community. This issue should actually be evidence-based. You have to go to literature, you have to read and understand exactly how far this issue is a problem in your community. So after that, you formulate a problem statement. Objectives, like Manpreet said, objectives must be SMART. And then after, below the objectives, each of the objectives should have its own activities that you're going to do in order to achieve that particular objective. You can go to the next slide. So on this slide, this is just a mind map approach that shows you, after the consultation, what we had in our brains, what we were thinking about, and what we wanted to do. At the center of this triangle, you see TSN research, and you see that there are 2 gears that show you in this regard that TSN is the machine that is responsible for making an output of solutions. So at the tips of this triangle, you see that road safety problems can either be behavior, can either be infrastructure, can be vehicle. So these different problems from the different aspects, we feed them into the machine processes them and comes out with solutions that you see highlighted in the color brown. These solutions that you're going to produce must be related to the Sustainable Development Goals. For us, our own project had 3 elements in relation to the Sustainable Development Goals, and that is good health and well-being, safe quality education, and also sustainable cities and communities. You can go to the next slide. So this is just evidence to show you that we did the youth consultation, and this is the picture that we took during our consultation. You can go to the next slide, Christine. So the next step is writing your project proposal. after after doing the consultation and agreeing on the most pressing issue, you have to put this issue into a project proposal. So for us, we divided the proposal in two parts. We had the problem scope and geographic scope, the project description, the general timeline, the project general budget, key indicators, and then we allocated each part to a different member of the team. So each team member was supposed to concentrate on one part, and that is what we did. And then in order to track what each team member is doing, we made use of a ride sharing application. In our case, we used Google Docs, and it is very helpful because you can see the input from everyone else and you can easily follow what everyone is doing. So after writing your proposal, at this stage, you will now have a draft of what your project proposal is going to look like. And then you arrange a meeting to discuss the proposal as a team. The meeting can also be online, it can be physical, depending on your interest, on what you like, and also what really is easier for everyone in the team. So we arranged a meeting, and then we arranged our proposal into a final submission document. Of course, in this meeting, you have to look at the elements of grammatical errors. You have to look at the statistics and find out the facts if they are right. You have to add some input to everyone's section and also remove some of the things until you have a document that everyone is comfortable with and everyone is really thinking that it's the winning document. You can go to the next slide, Christine. So the last step is the presentation. After writing your proposal and submitting it in time, then if you're lucky, and also if you're sure your proposal was very good, it will be shortlisted by the coalition. And if the proposal has been shortlisted by the coalition, then you have to arrange it into slides because you have to present it to a panel. So we arranged ours into slides. And also during this step, you have to ensure that your presentation is very concise and precise. You have to go straight to the point. You have to bring out what exactly the problem you want to solve and how are you going to really solve it. So you have to arrive, of course, to the Zoom room at least 5 minutes before your presentation time. You wouldn't like the panel to find when you're not in the room, you know. So that is very important also. Also, you must be sure to present to the panel within the allocated time frame because you're going to be given a specific number of minutes, and you have to use these minutes to present your points and your strong points only, such that the panel can use it to either fund your project or not. Next. So these are just some of the documents that you can use to guide you when you're writing your project proposal. Manpreet has talked about most of them. I think actually almost all of them. The global plan for the decade of action is very, very important. It's like the road safety Bible. It's what guides us, what guides every road safety player, all stakeholders, to know what they're supposed to do in the decade. Yeah, the local actions 2022 concept note. It's already out. I think it's already on the EOA's website. I saw it yesterday. So you have to go there and download this. It has very important information that can help you come up with a winning proposal also. The global status report, of course, you need statistics that are very specific to your country. And most of the times, there are elements of underreporting if you consider statistics from our own countries. So you may need to visit the global status report on road safety, such that you find out what the World Health Organization is saying about the status of road safety in your country. The annual report of your country, most countries, I think, every year have a road safety annual report. So within this report, you can find out the most pressing issues that have been documented. So you can concentrate on some of these issues. The National Road Safety Action Plan of your country, some of the countries have action plans. So this is very helpful because if you consider the action plan, it means that your project is going to be in line with the plans of your country. So it is going to be very easy for you to get stakeholders to involve in your project because then they can see that what you're doing is actually in line with their plans. Then, of course, other road safety literature specific to your geographic scope. Yeah, there are very many writers and very many scholars that have written about road safety. So you might also be it must also be very important for you to look at such information. the next slide, please. So on this slide, we have important aspects that you should put into consideration. Of course, your project must have an element of community mobilization and awareness. In order for you to achieve this, you might want to involve as many stakeholders as possible. And if you involve many stakeholders in your project, it means that there will be an element of sustainability at the end. After implementing your project, then the results from your project or the effects of your project are going to be seen in your community for a long period of time. So the other aspect is advocacy. You have to formulate concrete solutions. Most times decision makers want to hear from young people, but sometimes the solutions that we have are not really packaged well. So make sure that your solutions are very concrete, such that decision makers can give you an ear to and listen to you and listen to what you want to do. Also, you have to make sure that these solutions you're creating are youth-led initiatives, because of course this is a youth coalition, so you might want to do that. Peer-to-peer engagement is also very important. Ensure that your project involves very many young people that have the potential to become leaders and influence fellow young people to take action in their communities. Next slide, please.
So Nestle Plant, can you hear me now? Sorry.
Yeah.
Brian.
It's okay.
Okay, sorry. Because of time, I will not go back to what I was to say. You're supposed to think carefully about what you want to work on. Also start the proposal early so that you can avoid last minute rush. To go through all those documentations can take a bit of time. And then also reading the guiding materials very carefully, because you've been told like the Global Youth Statement is one of your Bibles. Finally, work as a team and ask for help where necessary. Our team members as shown, and then is there any question? And thank you for listening to us. I am sorry, my connection was unstable before.
All right, thank you, Christine, and thank you, Brian. It was really aligned to what we had explained before, which is very nice to hear and see that it really worked for you to have a successful proposal. And we hope you are having a successful implementation too. So thank you very much for sharing your experience. It is very insightful for us. Now I'm gonna pass it on to Ezequiel, who I see is now here. Ezequiel is currently leading the Don't Get Distracted or No Te Distraigas project. He has a degree on international relations. He's the coordinator of the education and road safety area in Asociación Minu in Argentina. And he's also going to lead us through his tips to write a successful proposal. So over to you, Ezequiel.
Thank you very much. Well, so I'm mostly going to talk about a bit of the story of our thinking the project, hoping you can take advantage of that and imagine how we are going to work on your own projects. So first, well, we are an NGO that has been working with mostly schools for 11 years, and we have had a lot of contact with authorities, but mostly in educational campaigns. And we had a lot of experience with games, like bringing games to the road safety education, and we had the idea of a game about distractions, about the use of mobile devices, and the inspiration from another NGO, No Chat, in Chile, that had made a lot of impact modifying the law about the distractions behind the wheel. So we were inspired, we had an idea, but we said, okay, we have to do a youth consultation. We didn't bring that idea to the youth, and we asked them. We gather friends from different spaces, from different contexts, some drivers, some pedestrians, cyclists, motorcyclists, and we asked them, okay, what do you think is the biggest problem here in Buenos Aires, Argentina? do you see something that's lacking? Buenos Aires is a city that's been working a lot in road safety in the last 10, 20 years. So it was, okay, this thing, okay, is mostly in the rest of the country, but not much here. This other thing, like alcohol, there's a lot of NGOs working on that at the moment. Okay, so who's working on mobile devices? And many others said, okay, this is a problem. The deliveries, the Uber, and the mobility apps, it's something that's been growing a lot as a problem in Buenos Aires, in Argentina in general, but particularly in Buenos Aires. And so we said, okay, this idea that we had, it's not something that we only noticed. That's something that the youth think it's a problem. So we said, okay, and how would you address this topic? And many said about the mobile, the deliveries and mobility apps. Some others said about only drivers. Some said about that we have to raise awareness among pedestrians because they cross the corners with the mobile in their hands or with headphones. So we gathered all those things and started thinking about our project. We needed to understand the problem, so we went to statistics in Argentina, and there aren't many. So this was another another thing. It doesn't have much attention in Argentina, so there isn't many statistics. This raised our alarm more. Like, this is something we have to work on because nobody is even looking at what is happening. When there is a crash, there is no record that the mobile was present. So we started to think all the aspects that this problem had and what or where can we make the more impact. Also, what are the policies, both law and enforcement? And while there is a good law in Argentina, in general, we have a very good law in regard with road safety, but the enforcement is very, very weak. So you can go around with the mobile while driving and nobody is going to say anything to you. So we said, okay, we have no good enforcement. We have we don't have the statistics, so there's a lacking of attention. And also people do recognize that this is a problem while they continue doing it. One of the observational statistics said that almost 90% of Argentinians asked thought that it was a problem, yet most of them still use the device while driving. So we said, okay, those things we can address. Is it likely for us to gather support to change the deliveries and mobility apps business model, even if it is something that we do think it's a big problem? One thing is to work with the authorities that we already have some dialogue for other projects. So, okay, let's sit and tell all the things we think are a problem, and let's change this reality. Another thing is to fight not one, but many companies that are very big in Argentina and that are growing at this moment. The other thing, is there any space to make the law better? Or is it only in the enforcement part? Or is it only in the, okay, we need to start thinking about this and not only just say, okay, this person must have a fine, but also say, okay, what was the causes for this, crash? That is something that we are not looking at the moment. What do we want? Do we want more awareness by the public? My answer is yes. Most people know that it is a problem, but seem to forget when they go to when they are going to drive. So yes, we do need more awareness, but at the same time, we need the attention of authorities, both local and national. Yet the national are very far, are more farther than the local to achieve tangible things. Argentina is a very federal country, so working with the national government has its own complications, but working with the local in a very big city as Buenos Aires, it's something reachable, and we do need their attention for that. So we accepted the challenge to start addressing decision makers in another way that was not how we used to. We usually were working along them in educational campaigns for schools. This was working along them to bring make a difference in the streets. So we accepted the challenge. And that, I think that was what, well, of course, you have listened to this, to the advocacy part a lot during today's session, but it was, I think, the big difference that we made from this project to other projects that we had already thought for previous years. Making an impact, making a difference with advocacy, it's key to anything we want to address. And we thought this project with our own style, that is games. So the distractions game became a big part of this project, and we already had some people from the Buenos Aires city and even the national government to play our distractions game. So this is our style, like our trademark. And so then we needed to think, okay, if we are going to have two different publics, like the general, the people, the common people, and the lawmakers, how are we going to attract them both? So we thought that we needed a strong social media campaign with creative content. We started making, we planned videos, like spots that didn't have this tragic message with people on the road and all very gray and tragic that is very common in Argentina. But we wanted to think them from another side, like a common situation that it isn't dangerous, but transpolated to the streets, it's going to be a tragedy. So, for example, a couple watching Netflix and one of them is looking at the phone and misses an important part, like the end of the movie, that is a crash. So they are not going to be in danger. Yet, if you think about it, that in the street, it's a problem. So we try to do this like from a different style, that is our style too. Then we need engaging activities, so like the game, so that people know the campaign and want to participate in it, and also try to make lawmakers part of the talks, and like we don't want to sound like we are fighting them. It's us trying to impose something that work with them. That's our approach, and also it's a possibility for future projects if we can work together and work along. And also, well, you already heard a lot about the SMART approach, so I'm not going to talk about that very much. but that it doesn't need a lot of time, and you have to take account of that. We thought the activities before our goals. That is not the thing, how you should do it, but we already knew what activities we wanted to do. So the objectives were needed a lot of time of thinking. How many people are we going to reach? By what time? Where we want to work? Anything that is achievable. And then once you, or in our case, once we thought all the achievable things, we re-asked ourselves, can we do a bit more? And even if we thought a bit more, then when we started sharing our campaign in social media, we reached 5 or 7 times what we thought it was achievable. So there's a lot of time to reconsider what it is achievable and what maybe is out of scope. But yes, it does take time, but we make everything a lot easier later because you know what you are aiming for. And I think that's our story. That's how we did this, how we thought this project. I hope that helps you, and so you can think if our story helps you or if it doesn't, because it can be. Each NGO or each person works differently. So I hope this brightens a bit this process.
Thank you, Ezequiel. Thank you so much. It was also very insightful. And well, we have just a few minutes left, so I'll pass it on to Manpreet and Sana for the official launch of the
Awesome.
local.
Well, thank you so much to our 2 speakers. Well, 3 speakers, 2.5 because we lost Christine, bits and bobs in between. But it was great to hear from you when we had the chance, and I'm sure people would be interested in hearing more about it. You can go on to the local actions page to read all about these different projects that are running. And one thing, I was taking some notes on some of the things that stood out to me that I thought was quite pronounced in things that you did that was quite similar in a way, is that you both did youth consultations, which I thought is amazing, because if we all created projects based on our own perceptions, we'd never get anywhere, right? So actually validating that with young people, with people that care, with people who have a vested interest, and we say skin in the game in their communities, right? To understand that actually it's a really big issue that we're focusing on with this topic. And this is the problem, but it's not just a problem that I perceive, it's a problem that actually exists for many other young people as well. You all found the evidence about what the problems were. You both looked at policy gaps, what exists, and you also looked at who was out there, what other NGOs are out there that can support us, and you both included advocacy elements as well. So take notes, people. This is all really good stuff for Call for Action, Local Actions 2023, and which it gives me great pleasure. We are slightly over time, but thank you so much for staying with us, because we are about now, the moment you've been waiting for is actually launching the official call for proposals 2023 for the local actions. So I'm going to head over to Sana, who's going to speak for a few minutes about what this year entails, what you could be getting, and how you can apply. So over to you, Sana.
Thank you so much, Manpreet. First, I'd like to thank you and Danny for walking us through the process of building a strong proposal. I also would like to thank Ezequiel, Brian, and Christine for sharing all these valuable insights that will definitely help all the young people with us today to build outstanding proposals and actually become the next local action winner for 2023. In the last 2 years at the Global Youth Coalition, we are proud to have supported 31 projects that were implemented in 20 countries. So it's one of our ambitious programs where we get the chance to empower young people and to work closely with them at grassroots level to generate impact and help support achieve the goals of the global plan and the second decade of action for road safety. So we are very excited to announce that the call to applications for 2023 has been launched today, and you have 4 weeks to build your proposal before the deadline on January 15th at 5 p.m. CET. So now I'm gonna tell you, if you would like to apply, what are the steps that you need to follow. So it's a very easy process. There are 3 main steps that you need to keep in mind if you want to apply and become the next local actions winner. The first step is that you need to carefully read the guidelines. So if you go to our website, claimingourspace.org/local actions, you will have all these steps listed in detail. So the first thing is that you need to read the guidelines and see the criteria that we are looking for that will make you eligible to receive the grant and to receive the support to implement your project in your city or in your country. So one of the things that we are looking for is that you need to be a member of the Global Youth Coalition for Road Safety, and we want to see what is the idea that you would like to implement, what is the priority area that you would like to focus on, to work closely with stakeholders, to work closely with the local authorities, with the government in your country. And we want to see what is the innovative solution that you are proposing to the road safety challenge, the most pressing issue in your city and in your community. You are allowed to submit only one proposal. So if you have a team, if you have a group of young people around you, you can together work on building one proposal, but you are only allowed to submit one proposal with your name on it as a project leader. So all the applications need to be submitted in the English language. This is a very common inquiry that we receive. So as a global community, we mainly communicate in the English language. So make sure that this is the language that you use to build your proposal. The second step is to fill out the application form. We have uploaded on our website a project proposal template that you can download and use any PDF reader software to fill in all the information that we are requesting. We kindly ask you to stick with the word limit and to make sure that everything you include is straightforward, short and sweet. Make sure that your idea is like concrete, and that you are including all the necessary information that we are requesting. Filling out the application form is not something that you can do in an hour and a half or in a day. It's gonna take a long time relatively. So make sure that you read the guidelines. If you want to apply, make sure to see what are the information that we are requesting, to make sure that you include everything in your proposal, and that you have enough time to add all the supporting documents that we are requesting. Finally, once you have met the criteria that we're looking for, once you have consulted your peers, made sure that you have everything you need, you would be ready to finally submit your proposal on the type form that we have on our website. And make sure that you start early and you submit your application before January 15th at 5 p.m. CET. So add this date to your calendars, and make sure you know to prepare early, start working on your proposal early. And if you have any questions, please, you can reach out to us at any time. There are many things that you have to keep in mind while you are filling out the application. You need to have a team of young people to support you. Make sure that they have they come from different backgrounds. They have different set of skills that will support you throughout the implementation process. For example, someone with good advocacy skills, another person, for example, with a technical background, let's say in engineering, depending on what is the priority area that you would like to work on, and also someone with good communication skills. So make sure that you have a good team with different set of skills that will support the implementation of the process. Also keep in mind that this year, we are requesting that you need to work closely with a local organization in your city or in your country. So reach out early to the local organizations in your country, speak out to them, make sure that they are happy to be supporting you throughout the implementation process, that they can connect you with stakeholders and work closely with all the concerned authorities throughout the implementation process. Also keep in mind that your proposed activities need to be evidence-based. So do your homework, make sure that you understand the road safety challenges in your community in an adequate way, and add all these information and all these statistics, all the, let's say, the research that will back up your innovative proposed solution. Be mindful of time. As we said, the application process is easy. It's just basically 3 steps, but be mindful of time and make sure to apply before the deadline. We are requesting that it's mandatory to take out the first 2 modules at the Yours Academy. So enroll early, finish the 2 modules, and add the certificates when you submit your project proposal as the last step of the application process. Now we have a couple of tips that will support you to make your application stand out. Last year, we have received 69 applications, and we were only able to support 17 young leaders. So to make your project stand out in this big number of applications, make sure that you include or incorporate a culture or an artistic element. Understand what is the most effective way to communicate your road safety messaging to youth in your community. Be creative, and also you need to connect your activities with the sustainable development goals that are highly linked with road safety. You can go back to the policy briefs that we have developed throughout this year for reference. They have a set of recommendations that will support you, and make sure that you are engaging your peers in your community throughout the implementation process, because as you know, youth have been recognized in the second decade of action as one of the main stakeholders, and we aspire to achieve meaningful youth participation for young people worldwide. So make sure that you have a set of activities where you work closely with youth in your community. And one of the things that we are looking for is your ability to plan a roadmap to continue your project activities beyond the local action, to have long-term impact. So show us, how would you work with your government long-term? How would you, for example, reach out to other stakeholders that will support you, for example, with additional grants, or will provide you with technical support to help you scale up your project and continue generating impact in road safety. In the meantime, I invite you all to go to claimingourspace.org/local actions. There you will find all the steps that we just talked about. You will find all the resources, and you can get some inspiration by checking out the previous cohorts of local actions projects. And if you have any questions, we are just 1 email away. You can send us an email, coalition@youthforroadsafety.org, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. And we are looking forward to receiving more applications from you this year. And yes, let's keep claiming our space.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Sana. I think it's really exciting. I did see a big number of people saying that they wanted to apply for the local action. So that is super important that you go onto that website. The Christmas period, the seasonal period, whether you celebrate or not, a lot of people are going into this kind of festive break as well. So that's a great time to start thinking about what you're going to be doing next, how you could potentially apply, talking with your peers that Sana mentioned, doing those Yours modules on the Yours Academy. So it's a great opportunity to do those things. And we hope that you are excited as we are to have these projects funded for 2023, and really looking forward to seeing more and more people leading youth-led projects in their communities, and that's the essence of what we do as Yours and the Global Youth Coalition for Road Safety. So once again, thank you to our speakers, to yourself, Brian, to Christine, to Ezekiel, and to yourself, Sana. Of course, Laura, Daniela as well. Thank you so much for your insights. Before we wrap up, we are going to launch a very quick Zoom poll, and that Zoom poll, if I can find where it is essentially an opportunity for us to get some really quick and dirty data on what you thought of today's session. So the first poll that's coming up that you should see on your screen says, do you feel you learned something new in this session? You have an opportunity, and then you have a chance to rate the session as well. Don't worry, all of this is absolutely anonymous. So let us know. I'm not seeing anyone participating yet, so maybe Danny, you're seeing the same thing again. Yeah,
I can see it.
All right, so take a little screenshot, Danny, so we capture that. I'm going to end the poll in about 30 seconds. All right.
But see ya, them must see things say you're out of ideas. You give them art and sweet literature. You're gonna make the world see the better picture.
All right, great. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to launch now a very quick poll about open-ended questions. Hopefully, you'll see that as well, and we're going to get some responses there as well. We're just going to have to see how this works. Zoom is always throwing some technical issues at us. So I'll give you about a minute maybe, or a minute and a bit, just to fill that in. And then don't go anywhere. We're going to take a group picture, and then we're going to hope everybody goes and floods the Local Actions website, all right, and goes and looks for details for 2023.
When I look at where I'm coming from, I know I'm blessed, and I close my eyes and smile. Sometimes I feel like the richest man in Babylon, and I've done my best, so everything's alright inside. Oh, every morning, I rise, I stare at the sun. I know it is a blessing, so when the evening comes, I lift up my eyes to this, I'm blessed, oh man. With my two hands in the air, as far as I can.
Alrighty, wonderful. Thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate your feedback and your participation. I'm going to close now, and we're going to do a very quick picture, and then we're gonna say bye-bye. So if you want to switch your cameras on, if you feel comfortable, it might be early morning. If you're dressed, if you're not, then I don't know what to say really. But thank you so much for joining. Hope you found the session interesting. Don't forget, there's loads more in-depth information at the Yours Academy at yoursacademy.org. I'll drop the link. If you're not a member of the Yours Academy yet, now is your time to join and do that. All right, so I'm going to take a picture after 3. I still don't see that many cameras on. Most of you are. That's okay. We're going to switch it like this. All right, 1, 2, 3. All right, and I'm going to do page number 2. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for joining us. This was our last CapDev session of 2023. 2022. We're not at 2023 yet. I wish we were, but we're not at 2023. Everything you need to know about Local Actions is there on your screen. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful seasonal break if you're off during this period. And if not, we'll see you in 2023. Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Lift up my eyes to this. 'cause I'm blessed, oh man. Ooh.